What's up, everybody? Dan here from Headwaters Kayak, and today we're going to be talking all about you getting into paddle sports. Today we're going to talk about all the basic things like how to fit your life jacket, how to adjust a kayak so it's going to work best for you, what kind of kayaks might work best for the type of water you plan on being in. We've got a ton of information to drop, so hang out, stay tuned, and let's get into it. So the single most important piece of paddling kit is a good PFD. This is something you can get before you even start demoing kayaks. So let's talk about that first. So there's a ton of different kinds of PFDs out there, and the most important thing to me is that you're wearing one. But there are certain kinds of PFDs that are specific to kayaks that will make your time in the water a lot more comfortable. You'll notice how this life jacket has a big shoulder cutout. So as I'm paddling, I'm not rubbing, I'm not chafing, it's not getting in the way of my paddle stroke. The one I'm wearing right now has a high mesh back, so it's really good for kayaks that have chairs in them or high seats. This life jacket's more specific to touring or whitewater where you have a little bit lower backrest or a back band. It distributes the flotation a little bit differently, but basically it does the same job. I like a PFD that has zipper pockets that I can put my phone, I can have a whistle, anything I need access to like chapstick, sunblock, right here on my PFD so I can access it throughout the day. It really becomes an asset on the water instead of like bulky and in the way. A lot of people start off with the neoprene style life jackets, they cut underneath, and they really do chafe and are uncomfortable to paddle with. So I highly suggest spending a little bit more and getting a kayaking specific PFD. Next, let's talk about fit. The first thing you're gonna wanna do is make sure all your straps are loosened all the way out. So when you put it on, it's gonna fit real loose. And this prevents it from being awkwardly adjusted. We'll start by zipping it up, and then we'll work our way from the bottom to the top. We're gonna adjust the side straps, the shoulder straps, and this particular jacket has a chest cinch that pulls the vest down and wraps your body, making it so it doesn't want to slide up when you're in the water. So properly fitting life jacket should be snug enough where it's not riding up on you, but also loose enough that you're able to move around and have a good freedom of motion. So when people first get a kayak, what I see a lot is the legs go out like this, they lean back, and they start paddling. This is a really challenging way to paddle because you are using all arm muscles to paddle. You want to be upright. You want to think about rotating your pelvis forward. So the first thing you need to do is adjust those foot pedals back so your feet are engaged and you can push your hips back in the seat. The next thing is you want to adjust your backrest. This particular kayak has a backrest right here on the side where I can pull it up, pull it forward, cleat it in place, and now I have really good upright posture. I'm able to rotate, and now I'll be able to move the kayak effectively through the water. So let's break down what kind of kayak would work for the type of water you want to be in.
So the type of water you're going to be paddling has a huge impact on what kind of kayak you should be buying. If you only plan on paddling flat water close to shore, there's a lot of simple kayaks that will do the trick. However, if you want to do open water or river, there's certain things to be looking for in a kayak. So let's talk about it. The first thing we need to talk about is buoyancy. If a kayak floats, it's a lot safer, obviously. However, there are a lot of kayaks out there that don't have bulkheads or flotation, and when they fill with water, you end up looking like this guy.
Oh my God, I don't know what to do. Oh no.
The best thing to do, look for kayaks with at least 2 bulkheads because this is going to offer front and rear flotation. If your kayak doesn't have bulkheads, at least invest in some float bags, which are inflatable bags that can be added to almost any recreational or whitewater kayak. The other thing to consider is the sit-on-top kayak. These are 100% sealed and full of air buoyancy. They have scuppers on the deck, which allows water to drain out, making for an easy rescue or recovery in the case of a capsize. So why would somebody buy a 10-foot over a 12-foot or a 14?
If you find yourself mostly in class 1, class 2 rivers, the chances are a 10-foot or under boat is going to serve you really well. However, if you're the kind of person that might want to spend a little time in the river, a little time in the lake, well, that's when I would be looking at a 10, 12-foot boat, something that's maneuverable, but also can track and glide on the lake. If you're only paddling flat water, lakes, open water, then look for something 12, 14, maybe even 16 foot, because that's going to give you more glide, more speed. And then lastly, if you want fitness, if you want efficiency, if you're paddling lakes, bays, even the ocean, then that's when you want to look at something 14 foot, all the way to 18 foot, maybe even 19, maybe even 20.
But length doesn't necessarily tell the entire story. Just as there's a variety of different sized humans, there's a variety of different sized kayaks to support the paddler's weight. So the kayak that may work for a 130-pound woman isn't necessarily going to work for a 350-pound man. So when choosing your kayak, it's really important to check out the weight rating and make sure it has enough room for you and the gear you're going to want to bring with you.
So one of the last things, and maybe the most important thing we'll talk about, is hull design.
So there's a million different hull designs out there, so we're going to paint with broad strokes. If a kayak has a hull design with the keel that runs all the way from the bow to the stern of the kayak, it's going to track really well. If a kayak has a little bit of keel but a real flat midsection, it's going to be more maneuverable and better in currents or dynamic water. If a kayak's completely flat, that's a river-specific kayak, and you're going to spin around if you're paddling it in the lake.
I know I dumped a ton of information on you guys today, and I appreciate you hanging out and watching the whole thing through. There's a million more questions that might come from this video, and what I'd like for you to do is keep the conversation going in the comments. I'll do my best to try to field your questions, answer them as best I can, and hopefully it's a place where all of us can learn together. So thanks so much for watching and tuning in. Remember to wear that PFD if you're out on the water. It's a simple safety device that will keep you alive. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. We have a lot more great content like this coming down the pipe. So until next time, you guys, this is Dan wishing you happy paddling. We'll see you on the next one.